What did your mom do that became the stuff of legend? My mom worked as a night shift nurse at our county hospital for 12 years. She was the one they called when patients were dying and families needed someone who actually cared. She'd sit with scared kids during procedures, hold hands with elderly patients who had no visitors, and somehow always knew exactly what to say when everything seemed hopeless. One Friday night, when I was 15, Mom was working her usual shift when a school bus carrying the entire varsity football team crashed on the interstate. 17 kids, ages 16 to 18, all critical. The hospital had never seen anything like it. Broken bones, head trauma, internal issues, kids screaming for their parents who were racing from 3 counties away. But here's where it gets insane. The hospital's trauma surgeon was at a conference in another state. The backup surgeon was already in emergency surgery with a heart attack patient. And the third surgeon? He'd been drinking at a charity event and couldn't legally operate. So there were 8 dying teenagers and no surgeon available for at least 2 hours. That's when the hospital administrator made the most cowardly decision I've ever heard of. Instead of calling in surgeons from other hospitals, he decided to wait and see which kids were stable enough to transfer elsewhere. Basically, he was willing to let kids die rather than pay for emergency helicopter transfers. Mom overheard this conversation and lost her mind. She marched into his office and said, "These are children. Call every hospital within 200 miles and get surgeons here now, or I'm calling the news and telling them you're letting kids die to save money." The administrator's response was pure evil. He looked at my mom and said, "You're a nurse, not a doctor. Stay in your lane or find another job. These decisions are above your pay grade." But Mom wasn't backing down. She went straight to the trauma bay where kids were literally dying on gurneys. Here's the thing. Mom had been a combat medic in the Army before becoming a nurse. She'd seen battlefield trauma that most doctors never experience. She knew how to do emergency procedures that were way outside her nursing scope, so she started treating them herself. The kid with internal issues? She performed an emergency procedure to stop the hemorrhaging. The quarterback with a collapsed lung? She inserted a chest tube right there in the hallway. One by one, she stabilized these dying teenagers using skills she wasn't supposed to have and procedures she wasn't legally allowed to perform. For 2 hours, my mom essentially became a battlefield surgeon in a hospital trauma bay. She saved 4 kids who would have died waiting for proper medical authorization. When the real surgeons finally arrived, they found 17 stable patients instead of multiple fatalities. The lead trauma surgeon took one look at Mom's work and said, "Whoever did this emergency intervention just performed miracles. These kids should be dead." The administrator was furious. He told her she was fired and had security escort her out of the building while 17 kids were still fighting for their lives in the ER that she had just saved. But here's what he didn't know. One of those dying kids was the son of our town's biggest news anchor. When these parents arrived and found out that Mom had been fired for trying to save their children, all hell broke loose. The news anchor wrote at midnight. Hospital administrator fires nurse for saving teenagers. The footage of Mom being escorted out by security while ambulances were still arriving. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Within 24 hours, he was fired. The hospital board issued a public apology, and Mom was not only rehired, but promoted to Director of Emergency Services with a $40,000 raise. All 8 kids survived because of Mom's emergency interventions. At the hospital's press conference, they lined up on stage, all alive because one nurse refused to let them die.